Hey everybody, we are live. I am Haley Gray and I have got my dear friend Tracie Root with me here today. We're going to be talking about our biggest challenges in business and what went well and what did not go well and the lessons learned. Let's do this. Hey Tracie, so happy to have you here and I am all amped up to be talking to you today. Welcome.
Yay, thank you. I'm always thrilled to talk to you, Haley. Always soaking up the good stuff from you.
This is going to be a fun talk because I feel like, people always get on and we're talking about, hey, here's the next thing I'm promoting. And Tracie's got some amazing stuff that she does as the founder of the Gather community. So y'all check out her links. Today, we're going to be talking about kind of a harder topic, which is the most challenging things we've been through in business. And I know Tracie has got a doozy of a story. So welcome, Tracie. And so tell people a little bit about the Gather community and what it is.
Sure. Well, the Gather community started as Gather, which was an in-person event space here in Santa Cruz, California, where I live. I had been coaching for a number of years, 6 or 7 years already at that point, and I really wanted to bring people together in group work. I wanted to do vision board workshops and have, author readings and bring other coaches in and do a lot of community-based events for potential clients, for the community at large, networking groups, et cetera, et cetera. And I found my own desire to do that being kind of stalled because it was hard to find places here in town to do that work that were a good fit. The places that I was finding at that time, which was like in, 2018, were things like the, community centers, which was not a very inspiring kind of space, but was affordable. On the other side of that, you've got like the hotel ballroom kind of conference room thing where it's definitely not affordable. They practically want you to pay for the air you're breathing. So expensive. And then in the middle was like the back room of the pizza place, which since I started off as a health coach, that didn't really align with what I was trying to bring to my community and to potential clients and things like that. So since my corporate background was in interior design and project management, I decided I would rent a commercial space and create something of my own that fit the vibe that I was trying to bring to my people, which I did. And we opened in October of 2019. So every time I say that in a live audience, everyone goes, oh, right? Which is absolutely the reason why we say it that way, because, what we had to do was figure out how do you build community without a place to do it. And what we realized was, of course, where we are today, which is building community online. And that's how the Gather community was born.
Yeah. So ended up being created, right?
Right. The opportunity, what we really realized was that the goal wasn't to have meetings or to have anything in person at all. That was just what everyone did at the time.
Right.
And soon thereafter, what did everyone do? Moved online. And so we did the same thing. I had been using Zoom for years. I was one of the people that helped everyone else shift their work from in person to online. And that is how the Gather community really got started. That first week that we locked down, I said, we're all at home trying to figure out what to do. I'm going to open up my Zoom room and we can brainstorm. We can be there together and figure out how to move forward for what we thought was going to be a short period of time. How are we going to bridge this gap? And then, of course, before too long, we realized that it wasn't going to be a short period of time and we needed to really move in a totally new direction. A lot of people use the word pivot, but I see it as more of like, how train tracks, you're going down the track and there's like just this other track, but it's still kind of going in a similar direction, but it's on a different track. That's kind of how I see it. We didn't turn right or left. We just kind of veered a little bit off to a different path that was similar but different. And recognizing that the goal was always to build community, we just did it in the Zoom room instead of in the gather room, and figured out how to do the same things we were doing in the in-person space. We were promoting the people who were having events. We were making sure that they had a hospitable, nice environment to do that work in. And we did exactly those same things online. Instead of renting the room, I created a membership, and that's where the Gather community got its start 4 years ago.
So, and that brings up some interesting questions about, so you go from being in person to being online. So what were the challenges you encountered specifically with that transition from in person to online?
That's a great question. It was really interesting, actually, because as most people could probably relate, it was very much an evolution over time.
Right.
We didn't know when in March, the middle of March, exactly what the next 2 weeks were going to look like. We thought it was going to be a couple weeks. We didn't know that it was going to change from 2 weeks to however many years. But we knew that if we just were paying attention, that we could help people along the way. And so the goal being to build community made it, as long as that was always kind of first and foremost, the goal is to help people connect to each other. Then the challenges became, well, if our goal is to bring people together, how do we surmount this challenge, right? So there might be some technical challenges. Some people were not perfectly familiar with working online and Zoom and things like that. So there was the getting people to work on the platform in the first place. There was also the getting people to understand that the best thing about it is you can now expand that reach so much greater, that you're no longer bound by your current list. We were all so interconnecting that our lists all overlapped, and we were able to reach people that we'd never met from all across the country, all across the world. And that makes its own kind of challenges, because a lot of people would tend to get in their own way about that. Well, I've never worked with people over there or dealt with time zones, and what's the right time to do things, and how do you navigate that? So helping people remember that they already have what they need to have success. So that's where like the coaching part of all of it comes in, right? You already have what you need to have success, to create what you're trying to create. Just don't get in your own way. And how do you talk to yourself about getting out of your own way so you can keep progressing?
Right.
And then as the facilitator and the creator of events for entrepreneurs to use as a platform, it was, helping people understand what I was actually trying to do for them. The goal is to get you in front of people you've never met. I've got this list. I've got this social reach. I've got, these opportunities. Haley, you're, in that same boat. I've got 77 plus thousand people in my group. How can I help you understand that if we work together, you now have that too? And the value of what that looks like. So, I wouldn't say that, I don't like calling many things challenges in the sense that they're hard, but there are a lot of things to notice and a lot of ways to use your kind of own personal resilience in shifting gears and noticing and recognizing the opportunities that are ahead and taking advantage of them, instead of allowing those same things to feel like they're holding you back.
Right. So realistically, people interact differently in the online space than they do in person. What were the things that you most noticed about that and, had to kind of address?
Well, I mean, some of those things still happen. People not really clear about how they're showing up, right? People kind of showing up like this.
Right.
Right? Like there's some of the logistical pieces of how do you show up online in your best way, right? So there's logistical pieces, there's technology pieces, there's understanding the picture that you're putting forward. There's also the understanding that in much like so say networking, for example, is a really good example.
Right.
We go to in-person networking thing. We're physically there in person. We've got our little collection of cards we're going to hand out to people or whatever. And you meet a few people. Either you meet a few people and have some conversations, right, or you meet everyone and you're just giving them your business card. Those two things don't change, right? It kind of depends on your own understanding of the value that you're bringing to the room and how you're trying to connect with the people in the room. As someone who runs networking events, I will tell you the first version, having a few conversations, is much more effective and better than just throwing your business card at everyone. So move that all online. And what do we do to continue to be able to grow our networks? We need to either have individual conversations, or we need to go to a room and throw a business card at everyone. And right, it still is true that those individual conversations are the things that are going to move your business forward. The showing up at a networking group of 50 people and just, deciding to, throw your business card in the chat and hope that something comes from it. That's just like giving your business card out to every single person and hoping they're all going to grab it and say, and contact you. We need to bring the value to the conversations so that we can keep them going after the meeting. And right, so in an online space, that's no different. You are having a conversation, you meet someone, you think that their energy is good, or you like what they said, or that based on what they say that you serve the same people. You could be like a power partner, collaborative partner, things like that. Mm-hmm. Make those connections, but you have to do it outside the meeting. And the meeting is about growing your circle. So that's why I belong to like 6 different organizations, because I'm always meeting new people to grow my circle, but I'm not relying on them to contact me. We need to be the proactive networker. So I think that right, that's something that when people were in Zoom at first, they were just like, okay, I'm here. Or they go to something once and don't go again and don't work on nurturing those relationships and just hope that people will contact them. Oh yeah, I went to that 100%. Thing. I didn't get anything out of it,
Right. So 100%. Really and I see that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and I see it not just like in the, go to a singular networking meeting, like a round table that we do, and then never go back again because you didn't get a ton of business out of it right, on the first go round. But I also see it in terms of, oh, well, I posted a promo in XYZ group and nobody responded. So therefore it must not work. So I'm never going to do that again.
Right. Yeah. I think that that's, talking about social media, I think that the way, how it works, how the algo is really watching what you're doing or not watching what you're doing because you've never done it before, and how to use that tool is really misunderstood by a lot of people who don't spend a lot of time there. Those of us who spend a lot of time on social media get that, wow, I posted something, no one saw anything, and I posted it and everyone saw it. Like, what was different? Literally nothing was different. It was just a different time of day or a different day of the week, or, who knows, or they changed something in the back end that you're never going to know about. So what do you do with that?
Or I posted in blue and not green this time.
Yeah. There's just so many variables that we don't know what they're doing behind the scenes. We don't really understand what they're favoring, what they're promoting from a, meta standpoint or whatever, that the only good answer from our end is consistency. It's the only answer.
And consistently right? Connecting.
Yeah. It can consistently doing the things that we know, as Katerina always says, do what you know works, even when it's not working, right? Keep doing the things that feel like they're getting you something. If they're getting you something, they're going to get you something eventually. And you know what? And if it doesn't, then you're learning from the process and you shift, right? There's no perfect answer. We have to do what feels like what feels like the right answer, and then keep going. And then if it means we do something a little bit different, then we do it different. But don't write off the process because it didn't work once, and don't write off the the value of the platform because you don't understand the process. Like there's just so much to understand. And that's why, working with people like you who really do research and understand and keep tabs on all of the changes that are happening to the extent that they will tell you, the platforms, right? They tell
Even
you
though they
some
don't
stuff.
tell me.
Yeah, they don't tell you lots of stuff, but you also do a lot of organic, I'm figuring it out, and look, this is really working. And so your experience and history is a big part of the value that you bring to those clients. For me, with the Gather community, it's a lot of consistency, and it's like, people told us early on, or we used to talk about, send, an email a month, maybe 2 emails a month. Literally, I send 3 to 4 emails a week. And you know what? If that's not for you, then you're probably not on my list. But the things that we bring are opportunity and value and inspiration and things that are going to make you think. And if you want that, then you're on my list, or you can come on my list. And if it's not for you, then I'm hoping that you're finding what is for you, because staying open to seeing what's possible is really the bottom line of all of it. What can we make out of this crazy thing we call entrepreneurship?
Right. So, I know that it's been 4 years since 2020.
Yep. Crazy. 4 years of
I know, right?
I can't even believe it.
Nuts, right? But how have you seen people and their interaction online shift in that time?
I love that question because it's so fun to think about how things have changed. When we first started the Gather community, like as an official membership started, I want to say in June of 2020. By the time we realized kind of what we were really going to create for the rest of the year, once we realized we weren't going back in person anytime soon, what were we going to create? We did that starting in June, and we had our first summit in December.
Right.
And that year we were very much like, really, literally week over week. What's happening? What are we going to do? What do we want to do next? Let's try this. Let's try that. Lots of experimentation, lots of total random. Let's just give it a shot. Oh, you're doing this thing. Okay, well, let me help you like get more people in that. It was all about helping each other survive. A lot of survival mode. And of course, we were all still like so traumatized by the situation, and people were in the hospital, and like there's so much, it's just horrible, so much horrible stuff happening across the planet. So we were also emotionally getting through all of that together.
Right.
The next year, and so what was happening then, starting the next year and year over year, is like, okay, well, now that it's a new year, what do people want now? What are they going to show up for? What are they interested in? What are they paying attention to? The online platform space exploded. The online event management space exploded. And so all of the things that we were doing, there became a lot of options. And so we just kind of hunkered down on what was working for us already, and looked at our clients, looked at our members and our attendees of our events and said, what are people saying yes to? What do they want to come to? Clubhouse started to get big. Everyone just still wanted to talk to each other as much as possible. They would be on Clubhouse for freaking 6 hours a day.
10 hours.
Right?
Insane.
Like it was crazy. And I mean, what an amazing opportunity for that platform to try to make something of it. But there's no way to know what the long-term effect was going to be. So we just kept saying, okay, well, it looks like people want to do this and people want to do that. So let's do some of that and we'll see how it goes. And so that year we really leaned into more events, more members. We had a large membership that were speakers at our events that we were promoting week and week and week. And then we got to the end of that year and it's like, okay, now what? Well, wow, these summit
end
things
of 2021, right?
Yeah, end of 2021. And we're like, everyone wants to go back in person, but everyone's terrified of going back in person. And it's winter, so it's flu season. It became, everyone was getting sick again, so no one knew what to expect again. So we leaned into the things that were successful that year before. We did 2 summits in 2021. We did 6 summits in 2022. And because people really were responding to them. And So we went through that year, and that was a real like foundation building year. We kind of had our feet under us, and we realized that, okay, these are the things that people are still asking for. They're still successful. Let's do more of these and really systematize them and get them so that we can focus on the people and less on the what are we doing. And so we went through 2021, right. And the same thing happened again. We get to the end of 2021, and now it's like, or I should say end of 2022, and now it's like, well, now people really want to go back in person. But what does that look like? By October of 2022, I had closed my in-person space. I had been holding on, wondering what was going to happen, and I canceled the lease in 2022 because the curve that we were about to hit to go back in person was going to be a long, slow one. People wanted it, but they didn't know what that looked like yet. And what I saw from like an in-person, what it would look like would be a room that had a legal capacity of 50, holding 8 people, sitting 6 feet apart, wearing masks. No one wanted that. That was an experience that no one was looking for. So we closed the space and really leaned into the online and did the whole thing over again, really focusing on what do the clients want? What does the audience want? And so I think that the lesson that I really learned through all of that process was to pay attention to not what's successful, but what is it that people are saying yes to? Right? And I guess that is a version of success, but what is it that people are saying yes to? What do they want for their business, for their life, for their own promotion, for their community, their connections that they're creating?
Right.
And just really remembered the goal, which was to build community, to connect people. And from that point forward, now we're in a place where in-person is 100% back. Everyone's you can do in-person, you can go find stuff every day of the week. And people would ask me, so are you going to go back to your space? I had someone the other day say, what does it cost to rent your room? I'm like, dude, I closed that thing 2 years ago because they weren't paying attention to the online space. And some people, that was their choice. But what changed was the online networking, community, connection, teaching, promotion space is now never going away. It's part of the whole, you can't go back. You can never go back. You can only go forward. Right. For the first year, everyone wanted to go back to the way we were. And now we know that we just moved forward. And this is the new new
we're on a different track.
New situation. We're on that new track, and the online community space is 100%, solid and still has, just as much value as it did that first day when we were all so, sad to not be able to be in person. The people that I've had a chance to meet, that our community has had a chance to connect across the planet, never would have happened had it not been for this challenge that, got created across our whole lives. And the way that we continue to stay connected to people in, all across the country, all into Canada, across the world, it's to say that doesn't have enough value and close that down in lieu of an in-person space really does a disservice to what we've built over the time that we've been, working through these last 4 years.
Well, and I think that the interesting thing that I've heard, is that, nobody wants online, everybody wants in person, et cetera, et cetera. And I have actually not found that to be the case at all. No. I have found that, yes, people want some in person, but push comes to shove, I think that people are looking at the cost of travel now. I know I've looked at the cost of travel, and, how much time does it take me to go do a meeting in person?
100%.
And I look at that and I'm like, it has to be time, it has to really be worth my time. Whereas I know before COVID started, I could get in 3, maybe 4 meetings in a day if I was lucky. And I happened to manage to time them all just right and, in the right parts of town. And, you know, I was zigging and zagging and going all over the place. And as soon as COVID locked down, you know, I was back to doing 100% online, and honestly, I have not looked back. I gave up most of my in-person networking opportunities because I was like, how many hours a week am I spending on this versus how many hours a week could I be doing other things? And I really did that cost benefit analysis, and
absolutely.
other people do too.
I think that the comment of everyone wants online, first of all, you can't ever, like, the value of saying everything or nothing never is true.
Right.
And you're right. Many people do want to have an online or an in-person opportunity
100%.
to connect. The energy can be different. And what I see it as is the in-person ends up being more of kind of an immersive experience. And so that's why, the only thing that I'm doing in person is an immersive experience, which is a retreat.
Same.
Yeah. The regular, like, gosh, before COVID, and before I created Gather, or in my early parts of my coaching when I first moved here to Santa Cruz, I used to drive over the hill, as they say here, which is a 45-ish minute drive over an actual, mountain, from Santa Cruz to San Jose every single week for a networking meeting, similar to BNI, right? Like a leads generating kind of a thing. It wasn't BNI, but it was similar every single week.
Right.
Because there wasn't anything here in my town that I had connected with yet. There, it's a smaller community. I felt like I had to do that. And I did that drive every week for 2 years in the middle of the day. And there's nothing else I did on those days. It was a whole day basically for that one, hour and a half
100%
meeting or something like that. And now in a day, like you said, I could never do 4 meetings like you were saying in one day, because in my area, things are way too spread out and there's too much traffic. I could do
No, it was like 3, maybe 4 if I was lucky and managed to line them up right. But usually 3 was the limit.
And I would say for me 2 would be the limit. And it's unlikely because it's like it's morning or it's lunchtime or it's evening. And anyway, long story short, the
100%.
value of being online includes being able to really manage your time so much more on your own. You're less at the mercy of driving, traffic, obstacles that show up. And, honestly, the connection, this is the thing that I think people forget about Zoom, about connecting online, is, you're in a room with 20 other people, you're all sitting in a horseshoe table or at round tables or wherever you're sitting, and you're talking with people around you, but it's very surface. You're not like having this this really intense conversation with the person. You're checking in with everyone. Well, when you're on Zoom, what are we doing? We're literally looking at each other's faces, straight in the face the whole time. We're not like sitting like this at a meeting, and like this is intense. And that's why I think
it's a different experience.
I think in the beginning, that's why everyone kept saying they had Zoom fatigue, or they were, they couldn't do any more of it, because it's more intense than being in person, because you're staring literally eye to eye with the person the whole time. And it can be a lot, especially for someone who kind of doesn't manage their energy in that way. But it's also it's that one-on-one immersion factor that can be done online in the way that you can do that in person too, because you're literally like sitting knee to knee with the person for however long you're talking with them, as opposed to hanging out and, you're both looking over there at that guy, bringing in the water, and you're distracted and all these things. It's much more compacted and intense being online, and which means you can do it in shorter periods of time and have it be more effective. And you can do many of them throughout the day and meet more people, find more potential clients,
100%.
have more conversations. And that is going to grow your business by having more conversations.
and be a whole lot more productive because you're not driving to Timbuktu. I mean, for me, a BNI meeting literally took 5 hours every time I went to a BNI meeting. Right. And okay, that was, 5 hours out of my week. If I'm working, 45, 60 hours a week, it's still more than 10% of my time every week. And so you have to determine, is it worth that 10% of my time a week or not?
Totally. Yeah, 100%. I totally agree. And so, when we go back to the comment of everyone wants to be in person. It's like there is a personal desire to be in person, but it's not necessarily the best for your business to do that. So you mix it up, right? I do a couple of things in person a week. Usually they're evening mixer type things. Everything else is online, even if they live in my town. Because the amount of time that I take to go have a coffee date is a lot different than the 30 minutes I schedule on Zoom with that same person.
100%.
Check in and see how things are going. Sometimes I do the coffee date because coffee dates are great. But on a general basis, day in and day out, online is so much more efficient.
Agree, 100%. Thank you for doing this. If somebody wants to find you, what do you have coming up? What are you promoting?
Yeah, well, actually since this is live, I actually do have a workshop this week. It's called How to Be Bold in Your Life and Business. That's what I teach. And that, I'm looking for my calendar. It's on Thursday at noon Pacific time. And so if you go to my links page, which is, I think, the link that we were going to put on here, tracieroot.com/links, you can always find what links to my workshops page, programs that I have going. There's a thing there for the retreat that's coming up so people can see what that looks like. I also have an ebook that is related to the whole Be Bold in Your Life and Business called Unleash Your Bold Brilliance. There's also links there for the Gather community. So if my, Be Bold in Your Life and Business workshop doesn't work for you on Thursday, A, I have other workshops, but B, there's also the things that are happening in the Gather community where we have all kinds of women entrepreneurs teaching and sharing what they have to offer as well, with business coaching or wellness or mental health and all of the different things that help us to be better women, better leaders, and better business women.
Love it. That is awesome. Thank you so much for being with me here today. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you, Haley.
Thank you, guys. Take care. Have a great afternoon. Bye.